Oh, thank you so much, Hunter. Incredibly excited as always. I can't wait to introduce you to my partners from WORKIVA who are going to be joining us today. So first up, we have Daniel Barriento. Now, Daniel is originally from Spain, but has spent the last 13 years living abroad, with the Netherlands being home for the last 9 years. Now, Daniel is an HR business partner with a focus on fostering partnerships between HR and business units. He's also the career pillar leader for the Rainbow ERG at WORKIVA, advocating for LGBTQ career advancement and leadership representation. Now, Daniel has a background in talent management, and he's passionate about personal development and helping individuals to grow and thrive within their careers. Outside of work, Daniel is an avid reader, particularly drawn to history books that offer insights into the past. He stays active through activities like CrossFit, swimming, and bouldering. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. Is there anything you want our audience to know about you in addition to that bio?
I couldn't have said it more beautifully.
All right, thank you. Now, joining Daniel from WORKIVA is Luciano. Luciano, I'm telling you about yourself. Y'all should know that Luciano was born in Argentina, but is a resident of the Netherlands and UK for the last 9 years, and an experienced professional in customer support and inventory and asset management. Now, he's worked within SaaS, software as a service. Sorry, y'all. English is hard today, and that's bad when it's the only language you speak. So he has been in that SaaS space for more than 5 years. Now, Luciano joined WORKIVA in 2021 as a customer support engineer and now serves as a team manager of customer support, leading his team towards success as the company continues to grow. Now, alongside that manager role, Luciano acts as a current community pillar leader for the Rainbow Berg, or BERG, at WORKIVA, building relationships with external organizations to enable WORKIVA's participation and contribution to the LGBTQI+ community. In his free time, Luciano divides his efforts between CrossFit, learning new things, and gardening. So a man after my own heart. Luciano, is there anything else you'd like us to know before we dive in here?
No, I mean, that sums it up a lot, but I have some fun facts afterwards. So.
Excellent. All right.
For the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. All right. So first thing we want to talk about is a little bit more about y'all's journey, yourself, and kind of your journey at WORKIVA. So let's talk about what kind of led you there and what it's been like since joining. Luciano, do you want to start first? You have a 2-year tenure with WORKIVA. What has your journey been like to get there, as well as moving through the company like you have?
Yeah. So, well, where to start? So I started with WORKIVA in February 2021 after my previous job in a famous company related to the tourism industry let me go because pandemic and things happened. Interestingly enough, it was the first time that a recruiter reached out to me directly on LinkedIn, and it was a total fit from the beginning. I love the proposition of the company, the size of the company, the values of the company. So when I went to the interviews, I thought I need to get hired here. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm gonna get hired here. And once I started, I found myself in a place which was exactly what I had been promised, which was also the first time in my career where they told me things are this way, and then I arrived there and the things were exactly that way. The company has a very open communication culture, and it's really easy to reach out to anyone. You can talk to a VP if you feel like it. You don't need to book time with them. You just need to figure out the spots. You reach to them directly, and then you're going to figure out at some point to have a coffee chat with them if you want. So that for me was mind blowing, coming from very corporate cultures before. I worked for a very big company where the CEO would send a memo before arriving to the company and say you cannot make eye contact with the CEO and don't share the elevator with the CEO. So that was the level of culture that I had been used to before.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, and I started as a CSC, so customer support engineer. That's first line support. I found myself in a small team, and I started building networks inside, and I realized that not only with my team, I wanted to broaden those ties, and I started to find, what's an initiative that I would like to do. And I realized that I have always been tangentially involved with pride in some ways, but I had never done anything myself. And I thought, like, well, I don't want to be an spectator anymore. I want to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So by that time, Daniel and some other people had already started the initiative in EMEA. At the time, we had like local chapters of it. So EMEA had their own, and like Northern America had their own. And yeah, well, I joined as a collaborator, and then, well, things happened. We matured as an organization. We had a new structure, a new DIB head, and well, she brought a new strategy, which gave us a lot more structure, but also opportunities for like leadership and owning different projects in the same orientation. And after that, I got promoted as a team manager in customer support, so I could also start influencing my team in terms of, these things are important. And it's not only the pride, like the Rainbow Berg, we have bergs for many other things. And, you should get involved with whatever community that moves you. You should actually, work for it and like help each other and give back to the community.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Daniel, how about you? What was your journey like, getting to WORKIVA, and what has your experience been, during your tenure?
Yeah, well, so, before coming to WORKIVA, I had been working for big companies, and this time I was looking for a company that was going more through the, growth phase. I think that's something that they don't teach you at the university when you graduate, is that there are different companies for different types of people and different skills that are needed. And, I think that at the beginning, I was very obsessed with being with the big brands that everyone will know, but eventually I found that, my strength was at building and really precisely not being like overly perfectionist, but really ensuring progression. So when I was looking for my next opportunity, I came across WORKIVA. I have to admit, I didn't know the brand or the name, but throughout the whole recruitment process, they really got me. They managed to excite me in a way that, everyone that I talked throughout the recruitment process were super nice, super open. All of a sudden, I started reading reviews online on LinkedIn, and they were all amazing. And, I think that in that sense, it made sense that it was the type of company that I needed and with the right culture. So I went for it. And as Luciano said, I think that is one of the very few times what I was told throughout the recruitment actually was real. I'm not gonna, paint it all perfect. Every company has its own things, but it's true that in terms of culture and the willingness of people to get out their way to help you and to, like, this human approach was always present. Right at the start, I got kind of showered with opportunities like, okay, you want to be part of this D&I committee, or do you want to do something with Rainbow that they're in the US, or do you want to do something with this culture committee? There are quite a lot of things going on. I had a previous experience in working with an ERG at a previous employer, so I naturally kind of lean into the ERG. And back in the day, there was only the chapter in the US, which, by now I think that we understand that even though it is the same community, we face very different challenges from a societal perspective, and therefore it was very important to have something that could speak to our employees here in Europe. So together with another colleague, 2 months after I starting, I got started with, identifying, okay, how could we go about budgets, about putting a team, what about setting the priorities? And there is where actually Luciano came into play, because we just said, well, we are not going to define what's needed for people. We want people in this company to define what it is that they want to see out of this group. And we got a bunch of employees joining to give us their impressions on what they expect from an ERG, and specifically from the Rainbow one. And we asked for some volunteers to be part of the core team, and there Luciano was. So by the end of 2021, we had established a whole chapter here in Europe. We had a budget for the whole 2022. We had a working group of 6 people, and it was an amazing journey. I mean, really, we were building everything from the scratch. We are a passionate bunch of people because we are all still inside. And And then somewhere throughout mid 2022, there was a change in the NIMB strategy, and we kind of globalized the operations of the then new business employee resource groups. And there is where, many of us got the chance to get into leadership positions at the global level within the ERG, and where, and now we are leading global teams. So we all have members in the US, in Europe. Sometimes I'm a nightmare of from a calendar perspective,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
make it happen. And yeah, here we are today. I'm still an HR business partner. I'm pretty much that's my day job, as I call it. We jumped from 200 employees in Europe to 360 in a matter of a year. I was the
Wow.
only HR VP at the beginning. Now we're two. So a lot of change, but I think that amongst other things, really the participation in the ERG has been crucial to, my engagement and the satisfaction that I get out of work.
Yeah. Okay. We got a question from the chat. I do want to try and assess this, or try and answer this if y'all can. Marcus had asked, how is WORKIVA endeavoring to get queer representation in higher leadership spaces? So we're talking C-suites, executives, hiring managers, etc. This is something that is not uncommon knowledge at this point, which is like diversity gets like washed out the further up you go in most organizations. So how has WORKIVA been, trying to combat this? Luciana, would you like to go first, or Danielle, if you'd like to?
This is right up Daniel's alley.
Okay.
I will take that one. So, I mean, I think that when you are trying to address diversity at leadership levels, there are different aspects that you need to look at, right? Obviously, and the apparent one is, how do you make sure that you get access to these pools of candidates, but also how do you fight, potential internal biases that people might have, right? So I think that from accessing the talent pool, that's why we have, for example, the partnership with Power to Fly, amongst others, to make sure that we keep on accessing the different diverse pools and really attract and position ourselves in the markets, but also to fight the biases that there might be in hiring managers and leadership. There is where the Bergs are making kind of a big chunk of work together with the HRBP for DNI, who's having more intentional discussions with leadership. From our side, what we are doing is trying to raise awareness. We have been organizing brave spaces where we have had the pleasure to have our GMs and leadership attending to hear topics about what's internal homophobia, how are LGBTQ plus relationships, what are the types of microaggressions that we experience. It's difficult to pin it down to one, but I think that what I can say from our side is that we've seen a very intentional commitment from leadership to support us, but also to make sure that they allocate a fair amount of resources to all of us. So we are 8 ERGs in the, right now. We know that some of us tend to be a bit more louder than others, but in the end of the day, it's a matter of having all of us as a place at the table and really making sure that we are driving the diversity agenda. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent answer, because this is something that if you want to be intentional, if you want to, like, the changes that you want to see, you have to work towards, right? And so I think that it's really important to highlight what the ERGs are doing to, kind of help make some of these people within the community more visible to leadership. So I think that's hugely important. No, I love that answer. Thank you. And if y'all have questions that you want me to ask Danielle and Luciano, please feel free to send them in the chat. Let's see. Okay, this person had asked, how can you incorporate allies into LGBTQIA plus events while retaining the focus on people within the community, those employees and their needs? I think that's a really good question. As somebody who strives to be an ally every day, I want to know how I can help, but also, I'm cognizant of the fact that my participation in something might pull focus from the people that the whole org is based around. So do you have any tips on how WORKIVA has done this successfully? Maybe some things that people should avoid if they're trying to incorporate allies and allyship into a group like this?
Well, in our structure in WORKIVA, we have each of our BERGs has an allies pillar. So like our allies have their own unit where they can work in initiatives together with us, but also they can work towards the allies as well. Because, sometimes a big part of being an ally is like listening and like learning from the others. And, I'm an ally for other BRGs in the company. And, I'm always fascinated about how one's own experience influences the way that you perceive, and also like how the things that you assume that something is helpful and sometimes it's not. So what we have done is to work on both things in terms of like, the allies, they can like have their own initiatives and they can have their own resources, and like they can come to their, let's say, the members of the community with their ideas. We can work together on how do we make this work for everyone. We actually share the focus. It's not about also that, when people collaborate, get into a group like this, it's not just about like, oh, we focus 100% on the community and like the allies don't have a say, because that's not fair either. Like sometimes the allies need things from the community in terms of like, we don't know things. We need visibility on these things. We need you to like give us a space where we can ask questions, like a safe space where we can ask questions. And even though it might come across a little bit wrong, you can teach us why they're coming across wrong, and then get out of there as a better person than when I started. So, we put a lot of focus on always including the allies in some way or another. So like the allies, they kind of seep into all of the initiatives in some way, and they can participate and they can contribute and they have a voice for everything. And we just want to make sure that there's not a us versus them. There's no division between the community and the allies. We're all on this together the way that we can.
I like that. It kind of reminds me of sort of the wedding guest rule. Like, yeah, you're invited to the party. This is not about you. You are there to, support the people that are in the main event. But this is not a stage where you come in and get all of your needs met first and foremost. This is a stage where you come in, you see what you get the lay of the land, see what the community is doing, see what they need, what they say they need, not what you think they need. But yeah, hugely, hugely important to recognize that like allies can be helpful, but we can also be detrimental to the cause without realizing that's what we're doing. Doesn't make it any less detrimental, but another reason why we call kind of monitor ourselves there. All right, so we did have a really good question, another one from Marcus in the chat. I want to go to this one. Daniel mentioned expanding LGBTQIA plus talent pool during the hiring process. If someone were considering applying to a role at WORKIVA, what impresses each of you the most when considering hiring someone for your team, or if you're hiring for another team? So let's kind of take this in two parts. If you are looking for more people in the talent pool to be from this demographic or this affinity group, what would someone be able to say that would kind of make them stand out and make it obvious that this is a factor or something that they want to bring to the table here?
Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting question, because there are varying levels of comfortability in bringing it to the table. But I think that's something that we've learned throughout so we had this initiative about leadership tables, where we bring leaders from the LGBT community to share with us their experience and their knowledge. And time and again, they mention how important it is to be genuine, to be open and show vulnerability. Now, I understand that not all of us are at the same point in our journey, but when you're in a recruitment process, it needs to work as well for you as it needs to work well for them. And for that, you need to make sure that you bring your full self into the table, right? It's not a matter of being part of the community so that you are hired. Is more that you show a certain level of comfortability referring to your partner as your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever is in between. I'm sorry if I'm missing kind of some like the middle, the non-binary definition for that one. But I think that's what's important, right? Talk with naturality about your experience, about who you are as a person, and then show what you have to show that that it's relevant for the role. In the end of the day, no one wants to be the diversity hire either, right? So it's not that you want to put a stamp on yourself, but talking with naturality about yourself will already go a long way in building that trust relationship with the potential hiring manager.
Yeah. And, you know, it also kind of raises a good point, something I've heard a lot in like the, you know, hiring and interviewing chats that I get to host for Power to Fly, is we've heard about people doing things with like their special skills or their, you know, additional interests, that kind of thing, where you'll call out like, oh yeah, I was a member of this ERG at my last job, or I volunteer with this organization. You know, there are ways to kind of signal a little bit, but you're right. You know, nobody wants to be the diversity hire. And most of what we're looking for when you're talking about wanting to increase this demographic within the talent pool, it's not like the first thing you look for. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, are you gay? Great, you can apply. Like, that's not how that works, right? So I think it is important that, you know, if you are somebody sitting in, you know, in the audience, hi, who doesn't necessarily understand how something like this works, I think it is really important to highlight that, you know, when you're looking for diversity talent, you're looking to fill culture gaps. It's not like, oh, we need our unicorn. Oh, we need our token, you know, gay person. We need our token straight person. We need our token weirdo. You know what I mean? So it is really important to highlight that it's not like the bar. It's not like the first thing you're looking for. It's just like, oh, great. Let's give this demographic a better chance, a more equal chance at, you know, having their work looked at. So yeah, awesome.
You know, if I may comment, I mean, I think that in many cases we don't usually bring it up in our when we are interviewing for our first jobs. I know that it took me quite a few months well into the job to say that I had a boyfriend, but I guess that my question to everyone is if you bring it into a table and they don't take you, then I think that also you don't want to be in that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all goes back to a perennial piece of advice. When you are job hunting and when you are interviewing the company just as much as they are interviewing you. So ask your questions, you know, if you are in a resource enough position to do so. Not everybody has the luxury of being able to find a safe workplace. Sometimes just any port in a storm. I've been there before, many times. Oof. But, you know, it really is important to remember, like, if this is not a place if they're going to act like this at like your first meeting, like imagine bringing somebody to your house and they're like, oh yeah, I really like anime. And you're like, anime is the worst. Why would you even, no. So, you know, you do want to make people feel comfortable, feel like they can come into work as they are. And if they're not putting out that like red carpet service for you on your first visit to the place, again, maybe not the place for you.
Already red flag.
Oh yeah, massive red flag. All right, we only have 5 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to one more question here. We've talked a lot about the different things that WORKIVA does for y'all to support, to involve allies, to do this year round, not just during Pride Month. In your opinion, what is one simple thing that companies could do to promote that inclusivity in the workplace? You know, if you don't have a rainbow bird, but you want to give like your company like, hey, could we do this? What is one thing that you have either seen done at WORKIVA, something that you want to see done? You know, what would you recommend here? Daniel, do you want to start? And then Luciana will go to you for the follow-up.
Oh, I mean, I think I will provide a very simplistic question, which is like, be vocal about it. You know, people want to contribute. People are in search for meaning, and you will be surprised how many people are willing to chip in if you ask for help. So, you know, be open about it. Be open about the fact that you want to put intention into it, and ask people who feel the same way and feel like they want to contribute to join the cause, and take it from there.
Love it. Luciano, how about you? Do you can you think of something that you know, if people are out there coming from a different org that maybe doesn't have this same, you know, awesome culture, what's some way that people at different orgs can or that companies can do to promote that inclusivity?
I mean, I think that the main thing is having inspiring leadership. If you're in a leadership position, you need to listen to the people that report to you. And you need to be like sensible enough to carve the place that they might need to like actually express. those needs or those concerns that they have. If you're not in a leadership position and you're like an individual contributor, you should first of all find your affinity groups and like try to, you know, first share your experience with the closest people and together build, you know, initiatives that, of course, you're going to have to consider, you know, how much budget does the company have? I cannot just go and say, like, oh, we're just going to have like a float in like Sao Paulo's Pride Parade, you know, out of nowhere. But it has to be meaningful for the people that are involved. Sometimes maybe people don't actually care about Pride, you know, going into the parade, but they wanted to have something else, volunteering opportunities. And there's so many initiatives that don't require the company to put like a lot of resources. They just need to give support to those initiatives and like allow for those initiatives to flourish. Once you like, you know what you want to do, it's a lot easier to go to the right stakeholders and start negotiating like, what do you need to make this happen? And, you know, sometimes you're going to have pushback, but you can always find ways of framing it in a way that this is as good for me as it is for the company. You know, like people who are like, have that sense of purpose and belonging, they will be motivated, they will be more productive. So, you know, even if you have this really old, you know, corporate culture where you think like, oh, nobody's going to like care about my Pride initiatives, you can actually build the arguments with like science and like actual theory that is there and is proven that these things are meaningful and they're important for the company and for the business results as much as they are for like the development of people.
Excellent, excellent, excellent from both of you. Thank you so much. All right, we only have 2 minutes left, so I do want to wrap us up here, but I want to mention real quick that WORKIVA is also going to be part of our virtual job fair. Now that is taking place on Thursday, June 22nd and Friday, June 23rd. Now I'm going to be hosting the main stage, so you'll see at least one friendly face. And hopefully this, anything that you've heard today about WORKIVA might, you know, pique your interest. If that's the case, then definitely make sure that you register for tomorrow's virtual job fair because there will be reps from WORKIVA there. All right, that is going to bring us to the end of time for our session. But again, Luciano and Daniel, thank you so much. It's been a really, really great afternoon learning from y'all about WORKIVA, about company culture, and truly just cannot wait to see how many Power to Fly success stories we can maybe pull out of the virtual job fair this week. So thank you both. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.